this is Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow, and this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very last week of April 2017. I have a lot of crazy stories for you this week, which I guess they're always crazy anymore because it seems to be a crazy world. So, starting off with crazy, we're going to go visit, apparently, what over 30 mental health experts have to say about President Donald Trump. They have claimed that he is, quote, has a dangerous mental illness and is not fit to be President of the United States, unquote. Apparently, they claim that they have, quote, an ethical responsibility to warn the public about Donald Trump's dangerous mental illness. Dr. John Gardner, a practicing psychotherapist and advisor to psychiatric residents at Johns Hopkins University Medical School, said that the president is, quote, paranoid and delusional. The group of mental health experts has drawn criticism from both sides of the political aisle, along with others from within the psychology field, for violating the American Psychiatric Association's Goldwater Rule, which says no mental health professional should attempt to diagnose or give professional opinions on someone without having personally examined them. So, this was at a conference at Yale University. So we'll see what happens with this one. Anyway, you probably have also heard that he recently decided that he's not going to be at the annual White House Correspondent Dinner because he is going instead to be at a campaign rally. So watch for that to kind of blow up as well. Let's see what happens. And then on to the First Lady, Melania Trump. She is being called Frosty with Ivanka Trump. Now, of course, considering what I've been telling you about Ivanka, and of course, one of the reports was that the president said that was it wrong to be sexually attracted to his daughter, more sexually attracted to his daughter than his wife. So that was one of the reported quotes. So lots of things going on between Melania and Ivanka, but like I tell you, it's still a show. Anyway, there's been a lot of talk in the news about how Melania Trump has refused to share a bed with her husband. However, now they're going on to the relationship between the First Lady and Ivanka. According to a new Vanity Fair report, multiple insiders claimed that the First Lady is frosty with Ivanka. The report claims that Ivanka has gone a long way in stepping in for the First Lady, who has lived apart from Donald Trump for much of his early days of the presidency. And this is what I've been telling you, is that we aren't seeing the First Lady, we're seeing Ivanka, and you are being imprinted that she is like running the White House practically. Anyway, other sources close to the First family also allege that Melania is wholly disinterested in her First Lady duties and was merely dragged to Washington for her husband's political ambition. She never wanted this and never had any interest, another source revealed. Then Vanity Fair suggests that the First Lady did her best to ignore her reality because she wanted to be home for her son Barron Trump, of course, which we know, as widely publicized, he has his own floor in Trump Tower, so how close they can actually be, I don't know. Anyway, over the course of Trump's presidential campaign, the First Lady was absent at much of her husband's rallies, and the speeches she gave could be counted on one hand. Then the magazine notes that despite conferring with several acquaintances of the Trump family, none of the First Lady's close friends actually contributed to the piece. Okay? So, very interesting with the Trumps, never a dull moment there. Now, the next story that I have to tell you is very interesting. It comes out of Erie, Pennsylvania. This is about what is now become known as the Facebook killer. Erie is like, oh my God, right? Anyway, this gentleman named Steve Stevens, and they don't give his complete birth name, but if it's Steve, usually it's Steven. So generally I would say Steven Stevens. Now this is obviously some kind of twinning programming, Steven Stevens. And we've been talking a lot about twins in the news. I told you the story last week about Barbara and Jenna Bush, the twins. And I've talked a lot about twins to you. So anyway, we have Steven Stevens committing suicide supposedly around 11:10 a.m. This last week. Now, I also want to tell you in this story there are a lot of references to the number 1. Number 1 means a new beginning. The year is 2017. If you add up 2 plus 1 plus 7 plus 0, if you want to throw that one in there, you have a 1. So this is a new beginnings year. So Steven Stevens, 20 programming, committed suicide around 11:10, a lot of ones, because a tip came in shortly on that day around 11 a.m., more ones, where he was spotted at a local McDonald's. Now apparently the police cornered him on a stretch of Buffalo Road, were getting out to arrest him when he shot himself. Now my feeling is that if a police officer actually shot him, that would mean a lot of investigation. This is a man who posted a 90-minute video of himself, supposedly, it's himself, killing a 74-year-old man. So they're not going to want to really bring the police up for investigation, because everybody obviously wants this man dead because he obviously did something really horrific. So I just wanted to bring that up. So maybe he shot himself, maybe not. Just put it out there for you. Anyway, so more ones for you. Steven Stevens was 37. 3 plus 7 is a 1. The man that he murdered was 74. 7 plus 4 is a 1, 11. The man's name was Robert Godwin. Godwin. Now, this Steven Stevens programming 20 killed Godwin. So therefore, God, I would say, is dead. God can't win because God is dead. Okay, Godwin. Supposedly, he posted this video after breaking up with his girlfriend. And in my opinion, this is getting you used to public murder. And I've talked to you a lot about ritual. And I read to you from Stewart's Blue Blood book, but I have the True Reality of Sexuality, and I have 13 Cubed. And his Blue Blood book I didn't bring with me, but that also has a lot to do with a lot of these things that are going on right now in public. Anyway, it's ritual, in my opinion. Now, Erie, Pennsylvania, is located about 100 miles east of Cleveland. So 100 is, again, there's another 1. They're calling it a random act of violence, but I personally am not so sure. Earlier that day, 911 calls were released, and 9 plus 11 is another 11, 1. The dispatcher said, I got about 100, 1, 911 calls, 1. A local woman who is 28 years old, 2 plus 8 is a 1, said, I thought he was confused about his sexuality and could even have been gay. He worked as a case manager at Beachbrook, a behavioral health agency. He joined the agency in 2008, 2 plus 8 is a 1. He began as a youth mentor for teens and for the past 2 years as a vocational specialist for the Assertive Community Treatment Team, which provides support to older teens and young adults. Now, in my opinion, he's worked here at this agency since 2008, and this is a group of mental health professionals. If this man had a problem, you would think that the mental health professionals would have found that out by now. So here we have practically 10 years later, 9, but long time ago. So it just doesn't make sense to me. It says he did not have a criminal record. He'd only been accused of traffic offenses. However, he did have a gambling problem, and at one point he actually petitioned for bankruptcy. He also posted rambling videos that he showed his despair, saying he was out of options and wanted to kill as many innocent people as he could. Then he posted this video of himself actually killing Robert Godwin, which I told you, public killing. And of course, Mr. Godwin had 10 children, 1 plus 0, another 1. And in the video, he says, I snapped, I just snapped. Well, a programming trigger can be a snap of the fingers, which snap people into different alters and different realities. Then on the video, Steven Stevens told Godwin a woman's name that Godwin did not seem to recognize, and Stevens said she's the reason that this is about to happen to you. So the woman that Steven Stevens spoke of was named Joy Lane. Now to me, that sounds like a porn star. Let's just go down Joy Lane. So is it a real person? Is it a made-up name? I don't know. Anyway, according to a text message to CBS, from Stevens, supposedly, how he got a text message into CBS, I don't know. I know if I tried to send one to CBS, I doubt if it would get through. But he claimed that we had been in a relationship for several years, and I'm sorry that all of this has happened. Now, this Joy Lane claims that Stevens was a nice guy who was good to her and her children. And when his friends were asked about him, they said that the video showed a man that they did not recognize. There was a childhood friend that said that Stevens always seemed respectful. He got along with everybody. He never ever told me he had problems or issues. It was always good things. He was always just so happy and cool and calm, collected, like that's why it's so shocking. And other neighbors said he was quiet as a kid and intelligent, and they recalled how he went to college. He got his master's degree. And then another former neighbor said he was just no problem person at all compared to a lot of people. So anyway, I just think that this is kind of a very symbolic, ritualistic killing in more ways than one. I think God win. Let's kill God dead so God doesn't win. That's my feeling. My feeling is I'm not so sure that Stevens committed suicide. Perhaps somebody got rid of him. So I think there's a lot of programming going on, and again, getting you used to ritual murder and violence, because we see a lot of killing now. We see people, falling from balconies, from swimming pools, and they didn't used to really show like the dead body. Now they show the dead body, they show people hitting, they show animals being killed and maimed. There's a lot of blood and horrible things being shown on the internet these days. So anyway, in real life events, it's very bad. Even the ISIS people killing people and cutting their heads off and shooting people dead. I mean, there's so much killing going on every day that it's just ridiculous. Anyway, speaking unfortunately of suicide, which I think again is another killing. You might have heard about the death of former Patriots football player Aaron Hernandez, who was found dead in his jail cell. Now, they said that he hung himself in his prison cell. He was serving a life sentence for murder in the state of Massachusetts. And guess what time that he was pronounced dead? 4:07, which is another 11 or 11. They claim that he utilized a bed sheet, attached it to his cell window, and hung himself and blocked things from the inside. Now, what's interesting is that there was no prior concern that he was suicidal, otherwise he would have been on a mental health watch in a different part of the prison. And then it claims that he was acquitted in a 2012 double slaying. That's more twinning, a double slaying. Okay? He was, however, convicted in the 2013 killing of semi-professional football player Odin Lloyd, who was dating the sister of Hernandez's longtime fiance. Supposedly, Aaron Hernandez wrote the Bible verse, John 3:16, on his forehead. Now, I think they said with a red pen. I don't know how he could have written that on his forehead. I think that's really difficult. I don't know if you write that in a mirror. I don't know how you write that on your own forehead, but I would think that would be challenging, unless you practiced a lot maybe. So I think that's really strange. They also claimed he smoked synthetic marijuana before taking his life in his prison cell. Now, I don't know if they allow synthetic marijuana in prisons. That would be my first question. So I think the fact that he did that was odd. But anyway. Oh, and they also said that his Bible was open to the verse of John 3:16. I think it's very symbolic ritual killing again. Let's see. It said also that he also smoked this K2 synthetic marijuana after he killed Odin Lloyd. And it's been known to cause psychotic episodes. Then it went on to say that he had friction with members of the Bloods gang while in prison. However, he also had a Bloods tattoo on his neck since 2015. So I wouldn't think he would have put that in there if he would have had problems. But again, this is just my conjecturing, and you have to make up your own mind. And maybe the red marker had something to do with the Bloods gang. I don't know. But why would he have written that Bible verse on there and had his Bible open to it? And how did he do it? I'd like to know that. He took his life the same day the Patriots visited the White House to mark their Super Bowl win. Now, in addition to all this other information, in Massachusetts, there was a legal loophole that Hernandez could have had his murder conviction vacated, but he died before the appeal was heard. He also had a fiancée and a 4-year-old daughter. So his attorney, Jose Baez, claims that he and the Hernandez family believe he was murdered, and I personally agree with Jose Baez and the Hernandez family because I don't think this man killed himself. Okay? And speaking of law enforcement, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Sharia law is being enforced by a local vigilante who is sparking concern among the local Muslims in that community. Apparently, there is a 22-year-old named Abdullah Rashid. He's patrolling the Cedar Riverside area, advising people to abstain from drugs, to remain separate from members of the opposite gender, and for women to dress in more modest garments. Now, Rashid himself says, "People who know me would say I'm a terrorist. I'm someone who's dedicated to Islam and trying to help the community in all ways that I can." He also reportedly wears a green uniform with extremist flags. He's trying to recruit others into his group called the General Presidency of the Religious Affairs and Welfare of the Ummah. Community leaders have spoken out about Rashad, saying he does not reflect what our faith teaches, unquote. So, anyway, lots of weirdness. And then we go to Idaho. In Idaho, a school bus rolled over on a rural Idaho highway near the town of Gooding, and 12 students were hospitalized, and thank goodness none of the injuries appear to be life-threatening. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this particular story to your attention, not only do we hear very often about school buses rolling, which I think, they need to do something about that issue, but again, a little bit out of my hands. What's interesting about this story is right before the bus flipped, the students heard the coach yell at the driver, "Hey, hey, hey." This was reported by Cindy Stocking of Cary. Apparently, then she drove to the scene after getting a call from her 13-year-old daughter, even though the school discouraged parents from going to the site. She said, "I found her and we hugged like we never had before," adding that her daughter had been in another rollover crash 6 months ago in a family car. Okay, this is a girl. She's 13 years old. She's been in 2 rollover crashes already, a family car and a school bus. And I talked to you about, and Stewart talks to you about what's in your mind pattern. So this is the reason I'm bringing this forward. What's in the mind pattern of this girl? That she's been in 2 rollover crashes. I have lived for many decades, and thank God, never been in a rollover crash, never plan on being in one. And if you haven't either, she's not even, she's 13 years old. She's been in 2. So what's going on in the mind pattern here? So bringing that one to your attention. And then you might have heard about the Starbucks Unicorn Frappuccino. Now, by the time you hear this, participating stores might not be serving this anymore, but I found this one interesting. It was available April 19th through April 23rd. Now, the unicorn has a lot of astral connotations. The horn itself is often perceived as sexual and sometimes as an aphrodisiac. Higher frequencies has a different meaning. It's a protector, and there's a lot of other positive things associated with the unicorn. Has a lot of things to do with interdimensional, and that's kind of what we're looking at with a lot of these things that are going on, the astral interdimensional realities. And it was just for a very short length of time. Let's see if it stays around or comes back. So, and speaking of animals, did you see the pregnant woman who reenacted the birth of, April the giraffe calf from Animal Adventure Park in New York? There was a woman pregnant named Aaron Dietrich of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, who was watching all this live stream. It said that America was obsessed with it. Well, honestly, until they showed this woman with a mask on, I wasn't obsessed because I didn't know what was happening. I don't know about you. I'm curious again. Leave that in your comments because I want to know. If you've been obsessed with this giraffe's live stream birth, let me know. Anyway, so the woman couldn't sleep. She had pregnancy insomnia, and so she started watching this film, this live stream, apparently. So her husband thought that it was so ridiculous that he said she should get a giraffe mask for when she goes into labor. So she got a giraffe's mask. She's pregnant with her 4th child now. She put the mask on and started reenacting April's live stream, which is just pacing around. Then she started dancing and doing jumping jacks. This is a woman pregnant at 39 weeks doing jumping jacks. She said her husband was holding the phone up to the door frame. He was trying hard not to laugh. Blah, blah, blah. She woke up in the morning. She had like 8 million views. I was like, really? Anyway, so I thought this was kind of interesting for a variety of reasons. It says the proud parent's son is Porter Lane. I didn't write down their last name, but anyway, Dietrich. Okay, so Porter Lane Dietrich. Now remember in the other story I told you about Stephen Stevens, the woman he was involved with was Joy Lane. Now this is Porter Lane. Don't you think that's kind of interesting? Anyway, If you watch my news, I've told you many times about how that there are masks that people wear at very high levels to disguise their identities. And a lot of the elite have parties with these full head masks. And the full head masks are often used in Illuminati global elite rituals. Now, there are a couple of things about this particular story. When I first looked at her, now remember, giraffes have long necks, right? Well, this woman has a regular neck with this giraffe head on. To me, it looks like a goat. And a goat is an Illuminati symbol. So I'm going to, first of all, put that out there for you to think about. Second of all, let's take a look at the behavior of giraffes. Giraffes are non-territorial social animals. They travel in large herds that are not organized in any way, and herds may consist of any combination of sexes or ages. So that sounds like the way that they're trying to change the human species, how that they travel around. Large herds, they're not organized. It can be any combination of sex or age, because you can be any sex you want, you can be any age you want, right? You can be an animal if you want, just like this woman, and I've told you about that. That will be happening. And for giraffes, there are no current protective laws. That means you're not protected. So now all the country is being imprinted. And she said, when I want to get a little giraffe newborn hat to have on him. And so she did have the baby, and I saw her walking in to see the giraffe. And the little boy had this giraffe hat on. And of course, his mother had the giraffe head on. And to me, this is total programming for themselves and imprinting the masses. So I just thought it was really ridiculous. And I also wanted to remind you, if you didn't see it in the news, this just happened this past week, about a chef, Paul Giganti, who passed away. He was a celebrity chef and was also a chef for a kitchen, or for a restaurant, I mean. And he was only 36 years old. And it said that his death is still under investigation. So I can't tell you my take on it because they haven't really given out any information. But I will tell you, I have talked about chefs before. And chefs are often in the pathway of very prominent people because the global elite employ a lot of chefs to do their cooking. They don't do their own cooking. I have been at various places where they have told me that for very high-level parties, the guests come in and the guests wear masks, because that way the staff doesn't recognize them, because they don't want the staff to know who was there. So to me, being a chef for a very high-level family can be a dangerous position, because a lot of them have died, and if you look that up, I have reported on that before, you will find out that a lot of young chefs who cooked for a lot of people are dead and very mysterious circumstances. And so this is how I'm telling you about the masks, and that if he maybe recognized some people, that unfortunately could have been to his demise. So originally they were kind of calling it a drug overdose, but I don't know if that's the case or not. And then moving on to parties. Former rock star admits to attending snuff parties. A bassist for the band The Scorpions, Ralph Reicherman, revealed to TMZ, this was back in July of 2015, which I found this in my research, but you can watch this again in his own words saying what I'm going to tell you. He said he attended snuff parties whilst in the band. In the video posted on the TMZ website, Reicherman is approached by one of the TMZ cameramen, and he was jokingly asked if he was going to be attending any German fetish parties later that evening. Well, initially, Reicherman laughed off the comment, but then he said that he had attended a party one time where he saw some really bad S blank blank T, unquote. Okay? Then when the cameraman asked, was it a donkey show? And I thought that was interesting because donkeys, they have also sexual connotation in ritual. And Reicherman responds saying, no, they actually killed people there and stuff. They pay up to $100,000 to see people get, and he kind of trails off. So at this point, the TMZ cameraman interjects and completes the sentence offering the word executed, to which Reicherman responds that he is not kidding. And by the serious look on his face, the viewer is inclined to believe Reicherman could be telling the truth. Then he goes on to tell the TMZ cameraman that he had attended another party where he saw something so revolting that, quote, he wanted to throw up, unquote. So again, think of what I'm telling you about public murder, getting you used to ritual. This is from 2015, but again, you can go watch it and decide for yourself what you think, but it's out there for you. And in San Francisco, there is now a drag queen story hour hoping to defy rigid gender restrictions while providing unabashedly queer role models for children. Okay, local drag queens decked out in over-the-top, loud clothing and glitter, reading feminist-inspired fairy tales to young children. Now again, like I tell you, it's so amazing to me because when I was growing up, the word queer was so derogatory. You just didn't say it. It's difficult for me to say it without feeling like I'm being derogatory. Anyway, they call it DQSH, which stands for, again, Drag Queen Story Hour, captures the imagination and play of the gender fluidity in childhood, which I don't believe in, and gives kids glamorous, positive, and unabashedly queer role models. In spaces like this, kids are able to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions and imagine a world where people can present as they wish and where dress-up is real. So now this is pretend. This is like fairy tale, storyland. You can be whatever you want. It's pretend life versus what you are, what you came here to be. And this is also happening in Brooklyn, New York, public library. So I thought that was very interesting to see where this goes. And of course, when they list this on their program, they call the age group simply kids because it's open to children. And I do think this is very confusing for children. They don't understand. I can remember, when my children were small, and at that time, if women had long hair, that was a woman, and short hair was a man. And so if it was different than that, it was very confusing for my children. So it's becoming more and more confusing for children today. And you might have heard this story of Ronald Reagan's son that says that men should be able to sue women for sexual arousal. Now, I thought this was an interesting story. This was as a result of the firing by Fox News of host Bill O'Reilly. He says, Ronald Reagan's son, Michael Reagan, quote, "Hot chocolate used to be a compliment on your looks. Today it is called sexual harassment," unquote. Now, the tweet was in reference to a woman who claims that O'Reilly leered at her and called her hot chocolate. And I agree. I think that is very, a sexual thing. I don't think it's a compliment. I think it's derogatory, and I don't think it should be said, period. So I want to preface what I'm going to tell you next with that. Then he goes on to say, if women are going to wear low-cut dresses that show cleavage, don't be harassed when we men look. Or should we sue for sexual arousal? Because, as you know, these days, all the pictures out there is like the women are practically naked, and there really isn't anything left to the imagination anymore. So I kind of have a tendency to agree with him. If you're going to parade around like that, I'm sorry, it's like standing in front of a moving bus and saying, oh, the bus isn't going to hit me. Well, you know what? The bus is going to hit you. It's what's going to happen. So if you are going to parade around like this, then I think this person is making a point that you need to think about. They're doing a lot to divide the sexes, in my opinion. That women's rights, this now, that's kind of coming up to the forefront. Women this and women that. And they're getting people angry and aggressive. In fact, I saw something, it's been probably maybe even a month ago, but there was a woman, and she was talking about how women should get angry. And not just be angry in front of your television, and not just be angry in your dining room and in your kitchen. You should get out on the street and take your anger out there on the street and let people know how you feel. Well, you know what? Anger feeds anger. And the more anger you dump, the more anger that's going to dump out there with you, and the more that the society is going to continue to go downhill. It's not going to help anybody. Being angry doesn't help. Send your anger up, develop your own inner peacefulness, and if everybody would do their work, which I realize a lot of you out there don't want to do your work. You want somebody else to do your work for you. You have to do your work. Nobody can heal you but you. Nobody can fix the society but you. And you have to start by fixing yourself inside. So, anyway, I thought, no, you know what? This is really, as I said earlier, crazy news. And speaking of more crazy news, and remember, I'm kind of bringing up this twin theme for you. I started again last week. Well, here we go with some more of it. Celine Dion. Okay, Celine Dion sleeps with her 6-year-old twins following her husband's death. Now, these 6-year-old twins are boys, and she said this is her way of coping with the January 2016 death of her husband, Rene Angelil. She said, I miss him a lot for my partner, for the man I was embracing, kissing, making love with. I organized myself to not feel lonely. So what's happened is I got myself a huge bed and I sleep with my twins. My twins are comforting me a lot. I need them. I need them close. Now, again, I'm going to say to you, this is kind of like the story I told you about last week when I think it was Jenna Bush that was talking about how she was French kissing her baby. And then the host was saying, well, at what point do you not do these kind of things anymore? And then Jenna said, well, it's the lingering. And to me, it was bad. So to me, these are 6-year-old young boys. So they shouldn't be sleeping with their mother. I think she's 46 now, if I remember right. Her age somewhere. But I don't, maybe I'll come across it. But I think she's in her 40s, if I remember. Anyway, so she's sleeping with her twin boys. At what age should that stop? Now, you know, again, I have boys and they were in and out of my bed, but I didn't sleep with them. And I will also tell you, sleeping with children is not so easy, regardless of age. They're all over the place. And it's like, okay, here they come in, they want to sleep with us, but, you know, we just know we're not going to sleep because they're all over the place. And as soon as they would conk out, boy, we'd pick them up and we would quietly put them in their own bed so they could have a good night's sleep and we could have a good night's sleep. So again, this isn't normal, and I don't condone this. So she's sleeping with her twins, and then let's go back again to pedophilia, because this is part of it in my opinion. And this is preparing for people for pedophilia, for little boys to sleep with adults. Not right. Anyway, she says, Celine, Renee has prepared me for all my life since I am 12. Okay? He met her when she was 12. Pedophilia. He was 38 years old at the time. She says, I have never met another man in my life. I never kissed another man in my life. So he prepared me very, very well for the rest of my life. Yeah, to be bonded to him. He practically owned her. That's what I would say. Although she claims she didn't begin dating him until she turned 19, which would make him 45. So, anyway, she said her mother wasn't happy, and she said it was very difficult for her mother. And then she goes on to admit that now that she's a mother, she'd be less than happy with a similar situation if I reversed roles when I had my first son, RC, and I don't know how old he is now. She said, if I think of him and he comes to me with this lady who has kids, and she's 45 and she thinks she knows best, I would say, like, take your hands off my son. So I don't know if that's just for public edification that she puts that in there. But like I said, when's she going to stop sleeping with her twin boys? You know, when they're like 16? At what point? So a lot of things are going on out there, and they are imprinting you, and they're making you think this is normal. And it is not normal. So make sure you take the time to read these stories and see what's going on so you do not participate in them. Okay, our books, which will help you, 13 Cubed, True Reality of Sexuality. Join our website, less than $1 per day. We have a lot of pretty amazing discussions over there. They are not out there publicly for you, because if you're not willing to pay $1 a day to participate in something that will help you, then most likely you won't participate and it's not going to help you, so don't join. But if you want to find a place that helps, Expansions is your support system. And if you want some very good tools, Healing Archetypes and Symbols, Hyperspace Plus, these books are invaluable for your library. And the basic books, 2 books, this is all you need. And if you don't tell me you don't have the money, you can go to your local library and they'll order them in for you. Decoding Your Life, Hyperspace Helper, these are 2 foundational books so that you can learn how to be your own teacher and heal yourself and not be caught up in this crazy, crazy mess that's out there. Now, as you know, Stewart is in Poland. By the time you watch this, he will probably be on his way to Berlin. So if you missed him in Berlin, you can catch him. If you missed him in Poland, you can catch him in Berlin. And on his way home, I have just recently posted, if you want a personal consultation, you can catch him for a day in Casablanca, Morocco, and you can also catch him in Gran Canaria, Spain. So those are posted. He will have some openings for personal consultations while he's passing through those countries on his way back. And I will be taking a group to Italy the first part of June. However, this tour, registration for the tour does close April 30th. So you have only a very few days to let us know if you want to come with us, because we have to arrange transportation. And as I've told you before, it's an incredible trip. We will be walking the paths of the ancient Waldensians. You will meet my Waldensian family, and you will have amazing food and amazing companionship. We have a great group of people going from all over the world right now. And then in September Spectacular. So I have people, one lady wrote on Expansion's Facebook page, is when you're coming to Wisconsin. I was like, well, you know what? We're right around the corner. You can drive here. So September Spectacular, that's the class for you. It's a week long. It's amazing. And you get to spend time with Stewart and I and get to know a lot of really great people because, again, people are already registering. We do have payment plans, so if finances are an issue for you, get your payment plan going. So by the time you get here, everything is covered. Big Bend and Carlsbad National Parks. This is our magical, mysterious bus tour that we're leaving October 6th. There are still seats available. People are asking, so sign up and register. You just need a down payment with the bus company, and you need to get your expansions fee in. So, Big Bend and Carlsbad Caverns, it's an amazing, amazing tour. We have this brochure posted online for you. It includes the Marble Lights. It begins in El Paso, Texas, and ends in El Paso, Texas. Also goes through New Mexico. We will be seeing the Roswell UFO Museum. We will be going to Carlsbad Caverns, deep into the underworld. Lots of interesting things going on here. Stewart and I are never dull and boring. And as long as you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, your life should never be dull and boring. And the idea is to understand what's going on in your life, what's going on in your health, what's going on in your mind, in the spiritual realm, whatever it is. But, you know, I just tell you, I want to leave you with one last thought. And that is, somebody wrote on my blog here not too long ago that the self-help industry in 2014, I think he wrote, actually made in the United States alone over $1 billion in revenue. This means that most people out there really don't want you to get well. They want to keep you in the loop, just like the diet industry. You're never going to get slim on the diet industry plan because they want to keep you that way so they can feed into that. The self-help group, same thing, over $1 billion. So what Stewart and I do is we teach you how to heal yourself. We teach you how to be your own teacher, and we help you get up and going on your own way, whether it's financial, relationships, career, you know, you name it. We help you connect to your source, however you view that source, and not feed into the craziness of this world. So, that said, I look forward to seeing you in one of our events. I look forward to seeing you on my Facebook page. I look forward to seeing you on the membership side of expansions.com. Wherever you are in the world, Stewart and I have a presence, so there's no excuse for you not to participate in hyperspace oversoul work on some level. So take care, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye now.